Can we all just promise not to get overly hysterical one way or another when it comes to Nick Richards?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well,
Of course.
oh, who's ready for that big Nick energy? I know Leo, Anton, Steven, Lucas, King J-Rock, Jeff, everybody in the chat is ready for some big Nick energy. A lot of that up here on the panel as well. I'm Eric, that's Steven, that's Espo, that's Gerald. Silly little computer boy, Noah behind the Mac, making all the magic happen.
Detroit Day. Let's go Suns. Let's go Commanders. Let's go whoever's playing the Red Wings. 0-3 for Detroit today.
And we'll just give the Tigers a loss too since they're used to it. Thank you to all of you being here for the PHNX Suns pregame show, of course, brought to you by friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. Gentlemen, let's not bury the lead. It is Nick Richards' time. He was making his debut for the Phoenix Suns against the Detroit Pistons on Saturday afternoon. Gerald, are you as hyped as I am?
Probably not.
Are you almost as hyped as I am?
I am hyped. I'm
Okay.
excited to see what he's able to do. I'm coming in with tempered expectations and not to bring the mood down. But if he goes out there and has like 7 points and 10 rebounds, that does not mean that the trade was a mistake. It doesn't mean that he's not going to be able to help this team. It's his first game. I'm not sure if he's going to be starting. We should find that out here shortly. But I'm coming into this hoping that he is able to make an impact, show some flashes of what he can do, especially since it looks like he is coming off the bench.
Yep.
And go from there. It's going to take more than 5 games to determine whether he's going to be able to help this team. It's going to take some time to get acclimated, but he definitely brings a lot of athleticism, rim protection, defensive rebounding, offensive rebounding, and I think people should be excited.
Simply, all I want, a nice block,
Okay.
Check.
3 rebounds.
Okay.
Give me a dunk, but I don't need it. That if I get,
I would like one dunk.
I need a
If I
dunk.
get that today,
Mhm.
I go, all right,
Mhm.
good start. Like this, again, this guy raises your floor. He doesn't raise your ceiling. I don't want this to, like, I'm not trying to poo-poo on the guy because I am excited to watch him. Your
Yeah.
breakdown gave a lot to be excited about, but I also don't want this fan base to do the normal Phoenix Suns fan base thing where we turn on this guy because he's not the second coming of Hakeem, right?
Yes.
Like, have the right level of expectations, enjoy what he does well, enjoy the rim protecting, enjoy the lobs that he catches, and accept that he was the backup center in Charlotte for a reason. But he can help a room that's had pretty much nothing outside of Oso Iguodaro's ability to pass the ball and play well in the dunker spot.
Steven, how do you feel about him coming off the bench?
Man, this is what I assumed would happen for the first handful of weeks as he gets acclimated to not just a new city, but also a brand new team, new expectations, an entirely different context than what he was playing in with the Charlotte Hornets. So all of the change, I assumed he would come off the bench at least for the first handful of weeks. It's not really a surprise, but I don't think his impact is going to be shifted by it because I do feel like he probably will still play the most minutes and might even end up potentially closing in a game that's likely to end up entering the clutch down the home stretch.
Steven, I hear you completely. You're saying it's not the size of the Nick, it's how Bud uses him, right?
Oh my God.
You said that, not me.
Not to talk about basketball.
That what came to mind after everything.
Just ignore him, Steven. He's the biggest
This
Nick head on the
man
planet.
Hey.
He's
Jock used to
insane.
tell us that all the time. So
I am excited for
That's
Nick Richards
wild.
specifically against this Pistons team, Gerald, because this is a team that the last time the Suns played them, they out-athleted them, like a lot of teams do, but in a pretty severe way. They have some size. They have a lot of youth. They play fast. And Steven's right. You might see Nick Richards close this game if he can acclimate himself quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the Pistons have Jalen Duren. They have Isaiah Stewart. Like, they have big physical 7-footers that play with a lot of force, and Nick Richards is in that same category. So we could very well see where Mason Plumlee is a starter in name for now because Nick Richards is not familiar with what they run on either end of the court. But as he gets more familiar, I would be surprised if he doesn't usurp Plumlee or whoever is in front of him for that starting role. But today in particular, against this physical Pistons team, I think he could definitely help you out. And like Steven said, I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up playing the most minutes even in his debut.
I'm sitting here and I'm just thinking, can I get a poster?
That would be lovely.
Because that's what you said, you don't need a dunk.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't need a dunk today? Like, a dunk would set us free.
I don't need it. Like, if he doesn't get a dunk, I'm not going to be like, well, see, should have kept those 2 second-round picks.
Yeah.
You know, if he doesn't have a dunk today, I know it's coming Monday. Like, I know a dunk's coming, and I know it's going to be a rim rattler from this guy at some point. So.
I'm honestly just excited to see layups finished and pick and roll. And that's, to that point, like, I know I'm saying that lightheartedly, but also that's why I feel like he might potentially even close in a game as soon as today in his debut, because Suns don't run that crazy amount of plays, especially in the clutch. It's either pick and roll or he's going to be spaced off of a post-up or isolation, to which his size is going to present an advantage for them that they just literally didn't have above the rim. So it's just going to be a breath of fresh air, and I'm looking forward to seeing the domino effect from having him in the lineup and how teams have to react to him in comparison to how they were reacting to Oso in a lot of those scenarios.
Whew, there is a lot going on in chat right now. Steven says, give me a dunk that makes Amari smile. Rodriguez says, of course he's getting a dunk today. Michael says, I'm excited over the debut. These teams need a center. Sean says, if we don't see 5 alley-oops today, the trade was a failure. I think that is a very level-headed one.
Sean is finally representing the fan base appropriately.
Anton, do we read Anton's?
So Eric wants to see some Nick blasting all over. Oh my God!
You didn't read the whole thing before you started reading it, huh?
You got Ron Burgundy over here.
I'm Ron Burgundy. Let's go to one I like more. Darth Ford is saying Aiden is a Timu Richard.
Jesus.
Some Nick and roll. But what you were saying, Steven, about not being super complicated in the clutch, I also think that he doesn't have a super complicated role overall. Right? Like, he's not a ball handler. He's not going to be running the offense. Like, I'm not saying there won't be a learning curve, but I can't imagine that you're going to Nick Richards today and you're asking him to do anything that he's not already extremely comfortable doing.
I think so. I think there is something to developing kind of that chemistry and learning guys' tendencies in the pick and roll, especially because you screen differently for Devin Booker than you do for Kevin Durant, than you do for Bradley Beal. They're all trying to get to different spots out of that. And I think especially for a team that hasn't had a lot, like, you can throw a lob to Oso Ighodaro if it's there. You can throw into Mason Plumlee if he has enough runway and no one's in his way. But Nick Richards is a different type of athlete where you can throw that 2 or 3 seconds in advance and he's still running and he's able to go up and get it. That is a different type of anticipation and familiarity with your big that does take more than, one run to pick up on with each other. But I do think, like, he's just going to keep it simple. He's just going to do the things that he's good at, and those things specifically can help this team right from day one.
I just want to see a really hard Nick pick. I want him to get in there and set a good screen to free up KD or Devin today as well, because those are the simple things that you can do is get in there and to your point, it's not overly complicated when you set picks, you roll to the rim, you play some good defense around the rim. I think that's what he's able to do there.
Steven,
that's my overarching point with Nick, but just generally speaking for the Suns. In previous contexts, the centers had to do a little bit more, a little bit of playmaking here, other things on offense. With this team, it's so streamlined. You just have to be average and consistent being average for the impact to overflow. So if Nick comes in, he sets good screens, grabs his few offensive rebounds, which is not really Bud's philosophy, but it's working. If it's working, it works. Finish at the basket, and more than anything else, be a protection piece defensively for them. Someone that's felt on that end. You check off those 5 boxes. That's as simple as it gets for a starting center. And honestly, their role for a center is probably as simple as any other teams in the entire NBA just because of the top end talent. So he can check off those few boxes. I think he can really get his foot in early on.
Darth Voida in the chat says, could Nick unlock Tyus? I do think there's a lot that Nick does that helps everybody else. Before we get to that, I want to give us just time to predict a final stat line for Nick Richards tonight, and also remind everybody, we are doing a watch-along for this game on this channel. It'll be ending the pregame show slightly early. We're going to be switching up the scene, and then we're going to be doing a watch-along whole game. You could watch all of Nick Richards' debut right here. We can all watch Nick together. Final stat line predictions for Nick Richards.
My prediction is 8 points, 6 boards. 8 points, 8 boards, and a block.
I got 8 points, 7 boards, and a block.
I had 8, 6, and 2.
Give me 10 points, 6 boards, 2 blocks.
How many dunks?
2.
I'll say 2.
I got 1.
All right.
I think his
I'm
first
gonna
bucket's a
I'm gonna say
dunk.
no dunks today.
Shout out, no dunks.
Never knew 300 points, 135 rebounds, 2 blocks. The block seems a little light. I'm just gonna say it.
Oracle, 16 points, 12 rebounds. Darth Voida says 6 points, 8 rebounds, 1 dunk. Sean says 8 to 10 points, double-digit boards. Keep on letting us know in the chat what you think Nick Richards is going to do against the Detroit Pistons. There is more to this game than just Nick Richards, of course, the people who might benefit from him. How do we see Tyus Jones, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant maybe feeling a little more free now that you have an extra look at center?
That's the one thing that I'm going to be keeping an eye on over the stretch, most of all, especially if and when Nick Richards does get moved into the starting lineup, is do they alter their playing style at all to put the ball in Tyus Jones' hands a little bit more? Because as much as Nurk and Mason and Oso are good playmaking bigs, in terms of their gravity, those guys don't really have gravity on the roll. And that puts it makes it harder for Tyus Jones, an undersized point guard who has a floater, but not really a presence around the rim, to have an impact in the pick and roll. So they don't run a lot of pick and rolls with Tyus and whoever the big is. Does that change at all now that you have a legitimate big who is an above the rim lob threat, who has actual gravity when he rolls to the rim? Does that change the complexion at all? Does it mix in a little bit more for Tyus to operate with the ball in his hands? Or is it just, Nick Richards go set screens for KD and Book and Beal, that type of thing?
Well, I think early on, it's probably just going to be simply go set those picks, roll the basket, and if we can hit you, we'll hit you. Eventually, I think obviously you'll add more layers to it, but that's going to be where we see what does Bud actually do in terms of adjustments. We've always heard questions and primarily about in-game adjustments for him, but how does he integrate Nick into this system, and how do you actually make him most effective by playing up to his strengths? Because if you do what you did with Tyus and you don't play up to his strengths, then what's the point? Like, if you're not running effective pick and rolls with him to get those boards, if you're not finding ways to find him in the dunker spot and let him use some of that gravity in the paint to help the other guys, I think this will be interesting to see what Bud does.
I think it's twofold. I think it's offensively he helps Tyus. The Suns need the pick and roll tandem of whoever the guard is that's not the big three and whoever the center is to hit for them offensively to get the most out of their offense comprehensively. Mm-hmm. Teams are not going to help off of the big three. You're playing natural 2-on-2s regardless of where it's taking place. It has to be an advantage. I think Tyus benefits from that. Talk about the lob threat. You can't just cheat over on Tyus's floaters because that pass can now go over the top of your head and end up being something that ends up on SportsCenter potentially. But I think the other big thing is on the other side of the floor is where he really helps Tyus, because Tyus is going to continue to be pre-screened for to then be put into primary action. Cade Cunningham, an example of that tonight. If he can't get around Jalen during screens, because Nick Richards is more active with his fleet-footed drop coverage, he can play the ball and shift over and still recover and get back to the roller in scenarios that Mason and obviously Nurkic were not being successful in defensively today. So I think it's very much twofold. And honestly, because he can protect the back end so well with the size that he has, his defense and drop might be as valuable to Tyus as his tandem and pick and roll with him.
Xavier in the chat says, Richards, KD, Dunn, legit defense. That is a really exciting 3-4-5 as far as length and even defensive intangibles go. And now KD getting a little bit more free to play defense off the weak side. He's been really good at blocking shots and timing. And I think it's going to free him up to give less energy but have the same amount of impact when Nick Richards is on the floor. We appreciate that comment. All the comments, Stunna, Nicholas, Robin, Haydot, Sean. We appreciate everybody dropping a comment. And also everybody dropping a like for some big Nick energy. Let's take a look at
let's get to 100.
100?
100.
You think we can
Let's get
there?
to 100.
You think we can get there?
We had 320 people in here. Get there. Hit it. Give us that big Nick energy.
I'm going to be honest, Espo. I don't know if they have it in them.
Well, they probably don't, but that doesn't mean I don't set the bar high.
I'd like to think in a perfect world they do, but that's a lot of likes.
Well, you know.
You guys got 10 minutes.
See.
Prove me wrong. Let's get a look at the injury report for this afternoon's game against the Pistons. Bradley Beal. Do we have an official update on Beal? Is he good to go?
He is out.
He is out. Bradley Beal out. Yusuf Nurkic out. All 3 two-way players out as well. As for the Pistons, Jaden Ivey is out, and Bobby Klintman is also out on a G League assignment. No Bradley Beal. That does make a difference against a good Detroit team.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. I don't know what else to say to that because I feel like everybody is so down on Bradley Beal right now and more in on what they look like without him. So it does hurt to not have Bradley Beal coming off your bench, though.
It's kind of crazy to me that we're at a point where we're like the good Detroit Pistons team because it's such a far cry from last year, right? But they are. They are a team that's turned a corner, and again, you can't take them lightly, and we've seen that time in, time out. You hope that you've got the excitement of a new guy being in there that maybe gives you a little extra oomph in what you're trying to do today, but you can't take this lightly. And without Bradley Beal, you do have a scoring that needs to be picked up elsewhere by other guys. So does Grayson continue to step up? Can Royce find his stroke? What goes on with that bench group without Bradley Beal, and can you close out if you get up in this game, which we haven't seen him do?
Yeah, I think Brad not playing in this game is going to hurt some, especially with how well Detroit's been playing. They've had one of the better defenses over the last 16-ish games where they've won 11 of those, and they're just flying around. And if you're constantly having to take the ball at the basket against them, which is what they've been excelling at, their offense, keeping their defense set, you got to go against the grain some. They need their shooters to make shots to kind of make up for not having Bradley Beal.
We have a new Suns fan in the chat. Bleeding Carolina Blue. Great time to get in. Vibe super high. We appreciate you.
That sounds painful.
Yeah, new Bleeding Carolina Blue. Yeah. New Suns fan, though. Welcome. Good time to get in Nick Richards' debut. If you want to watch the game along with us tonight, or this afternoon, as I say tonight, again on an afternoon game, we're doing that right here on PHNX Sports. If anybody else is new around here, make sure you subscribe. We're at 70 likes. We're getting closer. They're starting to prove me wrong, but do you have that dog in you? Can you finish it out? Let's take a look at
that big dog energy. I got problems.
You like that?
No, not really.
I hated every minute of that.
It felt wrong after I did it. So,
I was about to say, he's Bleeding Carolina Blue is probably a Nick Richards fan, and sure enough.
Oh, yeah.
Love it. I still think you should get that checked out if you're Bleeding Carolina Blue.
They don't play about ACC basketball over there at all.
Well, let's check about today's game. Almost said tonight again. Dang it. Let's take a look at our score predictions for this afternoon's matchup against the Pistons. Steven, Gerald, you're going with the Pistons. Noah, Pistons fan, clapping behind the Mac. Would either of you care to explain this treason?
That man has a Reggie Jackson Pistons jersey on.
He
for
does.
y'all that can't see him, which no one can but us.
That's crazy.
Just wanted to let that be known.
Reggie Jackson Pistons jersey, Adrian Peterson, a Lions jersey, a Detroit Lions hat.
Underneath the Reggie Jackson Pistons jersey is the Adrian Peterson.
See, I want to clown on him for it, but that's how you know he's a lifelong dedicated 100%. Fan, that he even owns or knows of the existence of these jerseys. It's incredible. Pistons have been playing good basketball recently. The Suns have not. The Suns are bringing in a new piece. They don't have Bradley Beal. So for me, this feels like a Pistons W. I would love to be proven wrong. I would love for Nick Richards to go out there and just have a 15-point, 10-rebound double-double or something. But if I'm going with my gut, it's Pistons by 2.
One of the biggest reasons the Pistons have been so good, they've shifted the context of play around Cade Cunningham. They've sprinkled in a lot of shooters and different styles of shooters. This game has, I think, 5 of the 47 best catch-and-shoot players, 2 of which coming from the Pistons. Yes. 2 of which coming from the Pistons. Malik Beasley is leading the league in catch-and-shoot 3-point attempts.
And he lit them up last time.
Correct. And Tim Hardaway Jr. the Suns have struggled with guarding 3-point shooters. They've also struggled guarding the ball handler and the roller in pick and roll.
So everyone
the avenue that I'm speaking to is pretty in layman's terms at this point.
I suppose Suns by 15.
Yeah. I mean, look, sometimes when it feels like it's mental, when it feels like the vibes are off, again, I hate that word, but it's the only thing that I can really think of to describe what's going on with this team. A new guy coming in with some energy and some excitement can help lift up everybody in that situation, even if it's just for a game. And I kind of feel like this might be that game where the Suns just take that energy and run with it. If he gets one big dunk early when he's in there, that and everybody starts to lose their mind on the team, maybe that's just the kind of battery cables that you need to jumpstart this whole thing.
Yep.
I agree with you, but less confident about a 15-point win. I got Suns by 6. Chat, let me know what you think. Do the Suns pick up a win in Nick Richards' debut? Let's take a look at the line thanks to our friends over at Bet365. Suns, -1 on the spread, -111 on the money line. Money line is also -1, not 111, 110.
110.
Thank you, 110. But +1 on the spread. This is basically a pick 'em, especially on the road. But let's take a look at our bets, of course, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHNX365 when you sign up and find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, you must be 21 plus and physically located in AZ. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT-STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Espo, you hit a massive bet last time. How are you rolling up after that?
The hailstorm continues. Devin Booker plus 15 points. Kevin Durant plus 15 points. Devin Booker plus 3 assists. And Nick Richards plus 3 rebounds. -800. Let's go.
So you've just given up then.
4-leg parlay.
I did a streak. It's kind of like the Suns beating up on the dregs of the NBA. So you go, we won 3 in a row. That's what I'm going for.
Okay. Are you planning on catching them by 2028?
No, I'm planning on them losing all their money while I slightly add stuff.
I think mathematically you're still going to lose.
Steven,
It's true.
you got higher odds on your bet?
Unnecessarily to say yes. I do. I have Devin Booker knocking down over 3.5 threes in this one. He's been on a hot streak the last 5 or 6 games or so. Kevin Durant over 37.5 points, rebounds, and assists combined. Grayson Allen's also been hot, knocking down over 2.5 threes. Just got done speaking to Cade Cunningham, 41.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He's pretty much averaging that this season. Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. just got done speaking about those two and the Suns not being able to guard shooters well. That speaks for itself.
Plus 3,300.
Plus 3,300 is not bad. I'm falling somewhere in the middle. I'm just level-headed as always. That's just who I am. Devin Booker, 30-plus points, continuing his streak. Tyus Jones over 5.5 assists. I think he's going to benefit a lot from having Nick Richards, maybe the most on the team. And I got Suns money line, because screw it, why not? Plus 425. Let's take a look at our standings for today, if we do have those, because, Espo, the reason why Gerald said that you just gave up was because
I'm negative.
You're making like
72.
Time out. Hey, Richard Corner. Go ahead and put that up there, Noah. Put some respect on my name.
He says Steven's in the
Put some
red.
respect on my name. I ain't
Steven
been
is the
red
only
in the
one in the
last
green.
month and a half,
Look,
man.
214.72 minus ain't that bad. Look, I added 28 cents last time. I'll add 80 this time. I'll be minus 213 something. We're on a roll here, baby. I just need confidence, and when that confidence comes, then I hit the big bets. Then I'm gonna all of a sudden be up on Steve by like $200.
Okay.
And it's all over at that point.
What
So these
about-
are your get right bets.
These are my get right
Okay.
bets.
What about if
Yeah.
you lose the get right bets?
If I
I'm just
lose one of these,
asking.
I'm out. I'm just quitting
I mean-
the whole contest.
that would be incredible. Chad, let me know who you think is going to hit their bet. Get your final score predictions and final thoughts about this game before we wrap it up here on the PHNX Suns pregame show.
I got to give a shout out to Stephen White in the chat who said, going old school. Anyone else remember Espo's old Suns podcast, The Fodcast? Me, John Bloom, in a archival closet at the Footprint Center, bringing you that sweet, sweet podcast. Stephen, you are a true true OG, and I love you for that, my man.
Stephen White in the chat's also going to be hopping along with our watch along. Guys, we didn't hit 100 likes. I'm pretty disappointed. So if you didn't hit the like,
suck except for Stephen.
Yeah, you owe us to come over and watch the game along with us on this very channel. All you have to do is click on PHNX Sports, subscribe, turn notifications on, and of course, click on our watch along to watch Nick Richards' debut for the Phoenix Suns together. And if you're not going to watch the game with us, I know you're going to be here for post game after the final buzzer, win or loss, Nick Richards triple-double, or he scores 100 points. One of the two options, whichever happens, we'll be talking about it right here on PHNX Suns. See you all shortly. Thanks, and bye.
We all silly like the mayor.